That Disney video, huh?
Well, she's definitely learning from her mistakes, isn't she?
What I really think people have a problem with is that I am being a trans person in public.
Oh, of course not. Lily Tino's social media is dropping viewers and falling apart, and we can all see why. She's lowered her posting and rage bait to focus on her OF, but it's definitely not stopped her from being a social media terror in the meantime. Advising kids on their transitions, being a total rage baiter, fetishizing the trans community, going back on their own word again, and quite generally being a terrible representation for the people that she claims to represent. Lily Tino once again is treading a fine line. So hello everyone, welcome back. I am Jake Baz, and today we're going to be scouring the depths of one of TikTok's biggest begs once again. In my last video on her, we exposed her terribly shady ways of promoting her OF content and the horrible ways that she treats others behind the scenes, yet alone when she's trying to shame people in public for how they're acting, which has really brought a lot of problems to her doorstep. Allegations of her being inappropriate in private, fetishizing trans issues, and just slinging more mud on her lost reputation, leading to a slew of transphobic hate all across her content, which spreads wider and more virally, which is not right, but the way that she acts, it makes it even worse, to the point where even the trans community do not want her to be associated with it, due to all of the harm that she has been doing, mainly leading her to just be a horrible stain on the internet and in the trans community that they just can't shake or wipe off. And recently, despite her attempted hiatus due to her views dropping and with her trying to promote her OF, this has not changed. First off, she finally responded instead of just totally ignoring the entire Disney situation that happened, where she was talking in childish terms around trans surgeries in the middle of Disneyland. And as you'd expect, it's anything but her fault for all of the backlash. You can really only see it go one way, can't you? If you enjoy the video at any point, please do hit the like button and subscribe. I would love to see you back. We're on the way to 50k subscribers nowadays on YouTube, are actually quite hard to get, and I would love to have you around for future videos. So for a quick recap, she ended up being on mainstream media news channels because she went to Disneyland and talked about trans issues and trans surgeries, for example, using very childish terms, with obviously a load of kids around, which is not a very good look if you ask me. For example, you have her here talking about how she's getting her cake pops removed.
I'm gonna get banned from Disney. I swear, we're about to get banned from Disney. Last summer, I got my cake pops removed, and the plan up until recently was to get my marshmallow wand reconfigured into a marshmallow tunnel.
You get the gist. It's horrible. And I mean, she does prelude it by saying, I'm going to get banned from Disney. And although she didn't actually get banned from Disney, she must have come very close considering all the bad PR that happened on social media from doing this. For me, this was definitely rage bait. It was an attempt to get attention for herself in any way that she could. But then to scour the depths when you could clearly see and hear kids in the background and be talking about this stuff in childish terms that they can understand, it's where you cross the line of normality. Kids don't need to be hearing this. Kids don't need to be seeing this. And then as well, what she's done in the past as well has gone on social media, pretending to be like child entertainers and do like spoofs of that as well. And there's way more that we'll get into later. But yeah, so this happened at Disney. And from this, she literally said nothing. She went quiet about it. She didn't talk about it in the slightest, apart from the odd little mention. And recently she's been doing this thing where she gets like questions and she'll answer them on her TikTok, and she came out last week and actually exposed herself for what she was doing at Disneyland, and obviously she just pretends that accountability doesn't exist.
But when you're talking about surgery, why do you do it in the most public places? You could talk about it in your house. I also noticed that you talked about it in like a kids area, kind of like Disneyland.
That Disney video.
You know, she's about to own the libs when she says something like that.
Huh? A lot of the commenters on that video seemed to think that there was a row of children in front of me that I was preaching to as I filmed it. But in reality, it was a really loud cafe where I could barely hear my mom right next to me, much less the table next to me.
The problem for me with what she's saying here is that she's just lying. She uploaded multiple videos of her talking in Disneyland, and to put an example, the one that I have just shown you, there is very evident that you can hear people quite far away in the background. I've had to mute it somewhat so it doesn't get copyright flagged because of the music, but there is a lot of stuff going on. Like, she is right in saying that. But if I can hear a kid screaming from what I can presume is like 20, 30 meters away, I don't think she's in a position to be like, it's so loud I could barely hear anyone. I think that's not true. But anyway, how does that make it right anyway? Because it's loud. Like, how can that make anything that you've done right in the slightest? Because it's not like, oh, barely anyone's going to be able to hear me. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to talk about this in childish terms in front of children. That's the problem to Lily. That is the entire point. And by you saying at the start, oh, I think I'm going to get banned from Disney, you know that it's wrong. So why are you pretending now that it isn't a problem?
What I really think people have a problem with is that I am being a trans person in public. And that's really what this voicemail is getting at, that being trans in public in general is not okay, right?
I really see why people hate her. Obviously, that is not the point with the video in the slightest, because you're not going to see every trans person that you end up like talking to or meeting. They're not going to be talking about how they got their penis removed, right? In public at Disneyland. For me, it's one that she's using childish terms to try and get over a censor barrier, and by using childish terms, she makes it more understandable to kids, which I just find a bit weird considering she's got an OF and considering she uploads stuff on OF also on her main page. Not anymore as much, but she used to. But then also, that's not what the person at the start of this clip has ended up saying in the slightest as well. They're saying it's wrong for you to talk about this sort of stuff in public around children. That is right, in my opinion. Because of the type of content creator that you are, I don't think you're in a position to educate children. And by no way saying that am I saying that trans people are not allowed to talk about anything in public that regards like their surgery and stuff. But a lot of trans people are not doing it on a TikTok to get rage bait attention as well. And this is also why so many people in the trans community do not respect her or want her to be around, because she's blaming something that she has done that is morally wrong as like oh, this is because I am trans, full stop. And that is not the case in the slightest. And if she genuinely thinks it is, I want what she's smoking.
Like, they're saying that I should film at home. Why? Trans people deserve to feel safe at a restaurant or at the grocery store or just walking down the street, because in 2024, we don't.
And parents of children want to feel safe in public by not having someone explain a trans surgery to them whilst they're at Disneyland trying to enjoy a holiday. Trans people do feel unsafe, and that's right, because that's how the world is at the moment, especially with what's going on in the US. It's a bit of a worrying time, but it doesn't represent in the slightest what you are doing in public, and I don't think any trans person is going to be doing stuff like this in public for attention. And when you're talking about changing your genitals in public, I don't think that's a respectable thing to do in any sense as a man, a woman, as trans, as anything that you feel like you are in public like that. It's fine for a chat with your mates down the pub, but not whilst you've got Disneyland stuff on with loads of kids around you in the middle of Disneyland. I think it's a bit different.
And that's why I film in public, so that you can see I'm living my life and you don't need to be afraid of me or any other trans person. These are apparently shrimp raised in Vietnam.
Nice little segue, just, change back to the food. And what she's doing there is saying, oh, well, I'm just trying to be open in public, so then anyone who is trans or anyone who is transitioning can feel open in public too. And yeah, I agree, trans people should be able to feel comfortable and open in public, and why would anyone else disagree with that, really? But open to the point of talking about getting your bollocks removed in a public space full of children, no. And in my opinion with this, what she's done is she's just totally misread the room, or she has intentionally turned away from the room and just started reading another PowerPoint, trying to either obscure what you did in a sense, or you are just trying to rage bait, and either way, it's working. I think as well, when you get so much hate on social media like you do, and especially with all of the transphobia that goes on in your comments, for example, you don't want to be pulling out stuff like this, acting like a idiot, and then hoping that everything's going to be fine and dandy. You're not speaking for the unrepresented. You are being an obnoxious person that is not only not speaking for the unrepresented, but you're making it much worse for people who are trying to be represented. As one of the largest creators who is trans on social media, you kind of do have a bit of respect to your name that you need to uphold. And instead, if anything, what she does is she feeds into the rage bait, which then only makes the transphobia worse within their comments, and then also it has a filter effect which affects other trans creators, as well as making these people who do misgender her just to, do it more and try to annoy it even further. It's a self-fulfilling prophecy that only makes everything else around them worse. And talking about being ironic, she has yet again done another thing around her being misgendered, which really is funny when you look at it. Because what Lily Tino does with a lot of people that do accidentally misgender her because, quote-unquote, from herself that she doesn't think that she fully passes, is talk a lot around people using gender-neutral pronouns, such as, for example, they, them. In reality, with how society is, that's just not going to happen in the future. It's just not really going to happen, unfortunately. And it's definitely not the full solution to what she wants at all. And right here, she gets caught in a bit of a muddle.
I know that a lot of people believes that gender and pronouns are two different things. For example, you could be a male and go by she, her pronouns. Do you also believe that? And if you do, why you get upset whenever people call you him or he?
First off, the question was not offensive. I'm happy to answer it. A man can absolutely use she, her pronouns. There's no link between what pronouns you use and what gender you are.
May I just note here for all of the people that I currently, they've probably already done it about 5 seconds into the video, but people who are going in saying he, not him, he, not him, he, not him on this video. Gender has and always will be a social construct. It is something that is built into our society where you end up assigning a gender to someone based on what you perceive them as, what you look at them and think. Like you look at me, you would presume I am he, him. So yeah, and you'd be right in that instance. But obviously, with like Lily Tino, she wants to be referred to as a she, her, and no, not a lot of people do it in her comments especially. But as gender is a social construct, you cannot assign someone a gender because you feel like it. It's assigned at birth as you get a male or female on your birth certificate, but that is due to the sex of someone, purely down to the genitalia. So just for them people thinking about misgendering her for the millionth time, which is not getting old, there you go.
I get offended when someone calls me he. You might have seen the videos of me getting misgendered in restaurants. A lot of times people will criticize my reaction in those videos and say, well, how could the server have known that you were she, her, and not he, him? What am I suggesting here? What's the change? What's the thing that the server could have done? The server could have not called me he or she. You don't need to say hello, sir, or hello, ma'am. Just say, hey, how's it going? What can I get for you?
And the problem for me with this bit here is that, well, yeah, you can do that. You really can do that. But in reality, that's not what happens, is it? Especially with the likes of like servers in restaurants, for example, they will use like sir or madam because it's more of a respectful thing to do. Just going, hey, how are you? That's just, it's a little bit casual, isn't it? You want to give respect to the people that you are serving. Obviously, in the case of, well, Lily Tino, where she says she doesn't pass and she does get misgendered at points, this is not going to come across as good, but it's something that is trained into them. So blaming them for just trying to be polite is a bit bad, especially when you say yourself that you do not think you're fully passable. Also, I think she already has found out the way to do it by wearing trans earrings, which, oh god, I don't think they're going to be catching on. I don't think she's created a new genre for herself.
Why do I get upset? It's because I'm a human being with human feelings, and when someone says something that hurts me, I say something about it, because otherwise it simmers and festers, and no one likes that.
I'm sure she's eating in all these videos as well so that she can claim it back on tax. What a great way to make your food life just a little bit better. And obviously she's going to be upset if she is misgendered. I don't see why that's a problem. It's the way that she goes about it that is the problem in the first place. She's arsey, she claps back, she makes them feel bad and belittles them just for misgendering her as a unintentional thing. And when they're intentional, they're even worse, but you can kind of understand that. But what she does is she gets misgendered. She will go up to the manager. She'll ask for a manager, which is why she gets called a trans Karen, and then she will go and make sure that that person gets scolded for it. And that is not a good way to teach people. If you want to teach people and educate them and try and make them feel better about your situation and understand you, you don't just go and tell on them so they get in trouble, because that's just going to make them resentful and more pissed off about you. And also, it's not going to change anything. And surely she knows that, but instead she wants to make a clip on social media so it'll go viral. So by telling someone off and getting everyone annoyed, apparently that's going to fix the issue. No, it's not. If anything, it's just going to make your comments even worse, with every single comment calling you a he because it pisses you off. Arrogance is definitely something that doesn't educate. But also the massive ironic thing around this entire clip is that this is around her saying, basically, use gender neutral terms or don't use like terms like he, him, she, her at all. And although that's unrealistic, it would be good if Lily Tino would actually do that herself. Because what she says is, oh, it hurts, it's like a knife through the stomach or through the chest. And then what she does is she goes and talks about the people who have actually misgendered her by using them same pronouns, which is the most ironic thing ever.
The guy who dropped the food off, he called me sir twice in a row.
The guy who dropped my food off, he called me sir. That's all.
So my big question to Lily Tino would be, if you don't want people to use them sort of terms, why would you use them yourself? I think it's a big thing that she's missing from herself from doing this, and I don't think she could see the irony behind what she's doing. Because her entire point is, oh, well, we need to make sure that this doesn't happen, but then you're acting like this could easily be implemented in society, and then you can't even do it yourself. And these sort of unrealistic expectations, once again, annoy people, make people angrier. It causes a knock-on domino effect. And of all things, it just feels a bit petty. When you can't lead by example, you shouldn't lead at all. So I don't know where she's trying to get with it. What we do know from Lily Tino is that she is unable to read a room through every step she takes. And another example of that is when she has recently been talking in the past couple of days around the new US election results. And I'm not going to go into the politics of all of this. Kamala was not a great person to choose, and Trump is terrible. And you only have to look at his criminal record to see that. But Lily Tino comes out of this acting like a freedom fighter, which, come on, seriously?
Getting pushed around and seeing others get pushed around has given me a lot of anger. This anger is probably my primary source of motivation for everything that I do. Is that a good thing? I don't know. After last night, there's sadness, but sadness doesn't get us anywhere. Sadness doesn't motivate. Find that anger that comes from seeing your fellow human pushed around. Harness it to do good in the world. In 50 years, maybe queer people will have the luxury of being able to be motivated by something better.
I don't know why she's insinuating that queer people can't be motivated to do something better. Like, what's the point there? I understand this result can be damaging, definitely damaging to people in this sort of community. But also with the read room stance, you look at Lily Tino, you see the problems that she's done and what she causes on social media, and it's very conducive to the making everything worse herself. And here she's doing a speech about like everyone needs to rally together, everyone needs to get better, and everyone has anger around this situation. Well, a lot of people in the trans community have anger around you because of the way that you use this stuff and you fetishize it to make it worse. She is genuinely, as one of the biggest creators, probably a part as to why trans people get so many problems, not only on the internet, but in public. Because if anyone's been on social media and seen her, they're going to think that that is the representation, just being obnoxious, annoying, and just being horrible, and being inappropriate as well. And I genuinely think that Lily Tino is not a trans ally, because she really does tarnish everything.
And to all the queer kids watching, I know how discouraging this must be for you. I wish I could tell you that your generation is the one that's going to have it much easier, but it's not. We didn't pick this fight. This fight was picked for us.
I'm not sure she understands how democracy works. But also, once again, with the, to the kids watching, like, what? What do you mean to the kids watching? Why do you want kids to be watching your stuff? There is a little bit of a disconnect now with you and Spicy Lily, who is the 18 plus version of you, as there is not as much like OF content that is drizzled along her content, unlike what it used to be. It's separated now. But also, why are you wanting to expect kids to be coming across this content and also viewing it when it is you, when you explicitly don't do things that are for children? And you'll notice this in future with some of the stuff that we're going to cover as well, where she does have like it's so evident it's children that are like voicemailing into her, that sort of thing. There's being sex positive, and then there's being like you, Lily Tino, and I don't think what you do should be going anywhere near children. But with every step she takes with her quote-unquote education that she tries to give people, she really does beg the children aspect, which really does taint everything she does, considering she is also an OF model. Which also, for people that are saying he, him in the comments, I think if you want to go and check if she's actually had surgery, you can go and buy that. Because apparently, even though you don't have to do anything with your body whatsoever to identify as a trans person, it's all what's going up in here. You have to have surgery to be able to be trans, which is just so counterintuitive. And if you're confused by that, will you please go and Google what gender dysphoria is, because that is the best way to start with it. Lily does also think that she's for some reason quite funny, and it really isn't. I do feel like watching some of her TikToks, it's like watching your mum and dad trying to do like a viral dance for a TikTok, even though they can barely put in their own passcode and then open the app. But there's one here about Who Wants to Be a Millionaire, where she's just baiting out the most normal trans tropes possible, the ones which are not overdone about 1,000 times, and also what people don't really say.
Welcome back to Who Wants to Be a Millionaire. Today's contestant, Chet, is about to answer his $1 million question. Yeehaw, Regis, let's get her done. Complete the phrase. Trans women are A, women, B, men, C, groomers, or D, bathroom invaders. Well, I heard that trans people are stealing bathrooms from us, so the answer must be D.
Like, seriously, how cringe is this? I'm sure the bathroom line has been, like, had multiple studies and shown that it's actually much worse for men being problems in women's bathrooms than trans people, but let's just keep going on with that. But just to repeat the jokes with the MAGA hat as well on, you're asking for it, aren't you? You're asking for trouble. Like, why does she do this when she knows that she's going to get backlash for it? And we once again pull back to the ignorance standpoint, like, what you are doing in trying to teach people about the wrongs of people that are suggesting things about like trans issues is by mocking, taking the piss, and just lying about it. And it makes it much worse, because what these people will do is they'll see this sort of stuff, like you pretending to be on this Who Wants to Be a Millionaire, and instead of thinking, I might have to think about the way that I perceive this sort of stuff, they will go, oh, well, they're just being an arsehole, I'm clicking off. And I'm probably going to have even more of a distaste to it. So why would you do it? You're just causing harm to trans people. And especially with what Lily Tino covers and chooses to cover, you could say that as well. Because at the moment, like I showed one of them earlier, she's having a bit of a voicemail saga where she's having people mailing questions with their voices and she will respond to it. The majority of these people are kids, which is worrying in itself. I'm not saying that Lily Tino does anything with kids, I just think it's very inappropriate for her to be having children on her content. But in this case, she's responding about a 7-year-old who wants to transition, which, considering all the negative discourse around this, well, you're just asking for it, aren't you?
I have a 7-year-old daughter who has socially transitioned about a year and a half ago. She's transitioned at school. Everything's been great. We attend support groups. She's been seeing a gender-affirming therapist for a year and a half, but she doesn't have anyone trans around her or knows anyone who is like her. And my question is, how can I find like a good role model who could show her like it's okay to be you?
Well, I'll tell you, one person that you don't want to be in any form of role model or giving out you information that is positive around trans stuff is Lily Tino, considering how she acts. So you've already fallen at the first hurdle there.
Where do you find other trans kids that your trans kid can be a friend with? If you're asking this question, other parents are asking this question, right? Probably the thing that helped me most was having other trans friends. Even if they're not necessarily like sitting down and being like, oh yes, another trans kid, like what is your experience? Like just playing on the playground and knowing that there's someone like them is like a life-changing thing.
So in this, she's trying to promote the child to go through to mentorship programs, these sort of things that can help. And what she does say there is actually quite pertinent, in that if someone is in one situation that is relatively rare, especially for the age, having people around them can help them. But also, I would hope to God that they have gone through with the GP, the doctor, and talked about this very thoroughly. The issue around trans kids, I don't personally know exactly where I stand with it. And really, I don't think it's my call whatsoever. I think it's very situational. I do think things like surgeries and, for example, like puberty blockers should be something that has been really, really thought over and gone through over the course of years, because something like that is irreparable to your own body. And gender dysphoria is not really something that you grow out a phase of, but it is something that you can also go down a sort of pipeline, especially when you're younger. You can go through loads of different phases as you're younger, and then you grow out of them. But what I do agree on is that a question like this is one thing for a doctor, and only a doctor to answer, not Lily Tino, especially considering she only transitioned a couple of years ago when she was a full adult. Why does she need to understand or know the inner workings behind a child going through something like this, especially a 7-year-old? A woman of a 7-year-old that is going through something that is gender dysphoric should not be talking to Lily Tino and asking questions from her. She is only harm to the community, so why would she even... why would she... It's a weird circle jerk here. I get you trying to be a supportive parent, but not with this. And the intention with Lily Tino uploading something like this is so it feeds the rage bit further, because 7-year-old is something very, very young. It's even more controversial, and that's the entire point of her posting something. And this is what she does because she loves the attention, and she wants people to keep watching her and keep liking stuff, because at the end of the day, that only helps her OF. And feeding into the haters is something that is very, very exposed to what she does, such as here, once again, where she just gets someone's voicemail that has just had a go at her and just tries to own them. And I'll let you know how she got with that.
I've just wasted 1 minute of my life watching that horrific video of you getting mad at work for calling you sir. Listen, you are a man. You were born a man. You sound like a man. You look like a man. So you doing surgery down there is not going to change nothing. Your name is not Lily. Your name is Michael.
So first, I'd like to apologize to Akira, who sent this voicemail, for only wasting a minute of your time. I wish I could have done more. And so we're clear, my birth name is Nicholas. I have no idea where you got Michael from. If you're gonna insult me, at least do your research.
I mean, fair play, she's done Akira in there. Absolutely nailed it. My question to people who are sending stuff like this, posting things like this in comments is, why are you actually doing it? Are you doing it to annoy her because you're not really achieving it whatsoever? Are you doing it to make a point that she is not transitioning and that she's trying to fetishize the trans community? I think she is trying to fetishize the trans community, but I don't think that she hasn't transitioned in some form in her brain. Or are you just doing it as a mob mentality? Everyone else is doing it, so it's fine. And that's what I had from quite a few of my comments in my last video. There was people apologizing for having to say he, not him in comments, because they don't understand the scope and the harm of what they're doing actually does to the full-on community. And what Lily Tino doesn't understand here is by posting this sort of thing, it's only going to cause more outrage. And once again, just exposing a random hater's voice to make them feel bad, I find it a bit distasteful.
And while I appreciate your input about my looks and my voice, I must disagree. I'm happy with both of them because I wake up every morning happy to be me. And I don't concern myself with the opinions of a sad little J.K. Rowling wannabe. And while we're at it, why don't you swish and flick yourself over to a medical journal?
There we go, J.K. Rowling wannabe. Yeah, definitely. That's the case, isn't it, Lily? She's not trying to be a J.K. Rowling wannabe in the slightest. All she wants to do is to just annoy you, harm you, and potentially just make you a little bit annoyed. And, well, it's worked because you've done a minute video on her. But going to the name calling instead of educating, it's so stupid from her. It really is.
But if I'm being honest, you're not really giving an I did the research vibe, so it's probably easiest to keep on hating me. In fact, make it your entire personality. Every time you wake up, think about how angry you are at my existence. And while you're doing that, I'm gonna eat my sushi. Incredible. Give me 14 of them right now.
And it genuinely really does piss me off hearing that. You could really tell by the trans community dislike her, because what she's doing there is imploring, if anything, the hate to continue and imploring for people to keep going and saying these things about her not being a woman at all. Why, if you want this to be a progressive movement where you're educating people, would you do something like that? Because that is inviting more people to be horrible. And that is telling everyone else it's okay to do what you're doing in my comments right now. Keep doing it. In what world does hating someone and then being implored to hate someone even further, how does that help fix any of the problems in society around transgender people? How does that make the world quote unquote more progressive, like what you wanted earlier in the video? How does it teach people the intricacies of why you are who you are right now? And the answer is, it does none of that. And you only need to take one glance at the comments to know that what you are saying is working, because you've got a lot more people that are making a point of misgendering you, which is only harming everyone. Video by video, she keeps putting the movement back further and further, and it's obnoxiously annoying. Teaching people to normalize the hate when explicitly you don't want the hate is actually a new one to me. I've never heard that before. But also, once again, going at the theme of her educating children, which explicitly should not be anywhere near her content, is this one here, where she responds to a kid, as she says herself in the video, a kid about transitioning, feeding into the hate further, making everything else worse. But what's new?
My name is DeAndre, and I was looking at turning into DeAndre, and I'm not sure how my family or friends will take it. Do you have any advice? Thank you.
First off, there's no need to rush. You can keep this to yourself however long you want. And when you're finally ready to tell your parents, don't beat around the bush. Say, hey, mom and dad, I'm really excited to tell you I've realized that I'm transgender.
Depending on the context of the family, I do find this a little bit grim from Lily Tino, because what she's saying there is she's promoting people hiding things from their parents. Especially with something like gender dysphoria, in my opinion, it needs to be looked at by a doctor. You need to be talked to, like therapy, this sort of thing, just to understand where exactly you are and better understand your feelings. I'm not saying if you haven't done that you can't identify as trans, obviously not, but it's definitely something that should be talked through with people. And to promote hiding things from your parents, that's not the most open or best thing to do in the slightest. And also what this kid should probably do is speak to people in the trans community that aren't Lily Tino, because she is the worst example of the trans community. She is not wanted by people in it because of what she does. You want to be talking to someone who can lead by example, not lead with all of the terrible stuff they're doing. Plus, you're a kid and you're talking to this person who puts very sexually suggestive stuff on social media to fetishize herself. It's not exactly the right thing.
If they're not supportive, don't let them convince you that you're just going through a phase or confused. Find a supportive teacher or a supportive friend, someone who knows who you are and respects you for it. Something I've learned during my transition is that you can't live for others. You have to live for yourself.
I really do think, in my opinion as well, they are explicitly saying to not go to the doctors and speak through things. For sure, it's probably not a phase. It's something that has been thought about for a long time, but gender dysphoria is something which can be diagnosed because it is a mental health condition. I can understand with the sensitivity and nature of what it is to maybe hide it a little bit from that, but like, for example, I have ADHD, and if I didn't go to the doctors and get help for it, it would just become worse in my own mind and my mental health would deplete. So to not overtly say that you should probably do that is not good, because that's where it leads to all of the like surgeries, hormones, that sort of thing that you need if you feel like you want to transition and you want to transition in that sense. And also by like speaking to a therapist about it, you might understand yourself a little bit better and have a better pinpoint picture of where you actually stand. And going to Lily Tino, you're not going to get any help with that. Do stuff in your own terms, but by all means make sure that you are doing it the best way that you can so you can understand yourself better. Because Lily Tino is only using this voicemail so that she can get engagement bait from this, and it's nothing to do with wanting to be helpful or help you out. It's just horrible. But also earlier we were talking about Lily Tino and her terrible apologies and misunderstandings from what she does. She definitely has a guilt complex and she struggles to understand when she's actually gone wrong, or when she's been inappropriate, or when she's been stupid. And something I covered in my last video was around the Kurt Cobain drama that she got into, where essentially she was saying that Kurt Cobain was trans, and yeah, that's it. He definitely wasn't trans. She's just posthumously, after he's died, said that he was trans because he associated with some gender norms that were in the women's area. Obviously stupid and very disrespectful to the person as well as actually trans people. But something I didn't cover was her actual response to this situation, where she obscures, she lies in my opinion, and she's just terrible around everything. And once again, it paints a picture of Lily Tino just being fucking horrible.
This is my comment. You ready? People are very upset about the Kurt Cobain video. I know. I stand by the video. I made it because it is something that I was thinking about a lot. And yeah, I am surprised by the reaction. I think a lot of it has to do with people being...
I'm not going to apologise because I was thinking about it a lot. What a great apology that is. Just because you're thinking about it a lot and because you might believe that this could be true, it doesn't mean it is true, and it doesn't mean that you should be saying it in public when you have such a large platform. It's disingenuous, it's so disrespectful. So if you just be like, alright, but there's a lot of problems, but I didn't mean it, but, you know, well, whatever. It's just so up your own arse and terrible.
So a lot of the criticism is that, oh, Kurt Cobain is disrespectful, right? There's nothing disrespectful about it. I think it would be pretty cool if Kurt Cobain was trans, because, you know, we assume that people are cis every single day. There's nothing bad about that. Also, nothing bad about assuming people are trans. There's really a lot of people are attaching a value judgment to the idea of being trans when there isn't one.
Just an absolutely insane level of statements there. What? You can tell when she's doing something on a live stream compared to when she's doing something for a TikTok video, because you can clearly see there's no notes behind it. Saying there is nothing wrong with assuming people are trans, there's nothing wrong with assuming people are cis, like what? I thought you said about using gender neutral pronouns. What happened to that? Why has that disappeared suddenly? And also the argument of it's not disrespectful because I think it'd be pretty cool if he was. Well, no, it's disrespectful to trans people because you're just saying that, oh, well, that person could have been one as well. To be trans, to understand that you are trans and to want to transition, you've got to have an understanding in your head around it. And Kurt Cobain didn't have that because he didn't fucking say it. So for you afterwards, after he's died, to say, oh, yeah, he might have said it. Well, no, he wouldn't. Like, if he would have, he'd have said it, wouldn't he? And you'd think with the amount of problems that she's causing, she would just give up and just accept it. But no, obviously not.
The intent of the video was to recontextualize or maybe offer an alternate reading of someone who is no longer with us, and maybe why they're no longer with us, or a part about them that might add extra interesting context to who they are or were. The fact that they are deceased is the only reason I made that video, because it would not be respectful to speculate on a living person's gender.
That makes absolutely no sense. So it's perfectly respectful if the person's dead, but it's not respectful if the person's alive and able to think about it. What sort of mental gymnastics is that? It's insane. To say the amount of rants that she goes on about people assuming her gender, she is happy to assume the gender or potential gender of someone else. Because they're a male who said that they associate with some female aspects of life. Like, so do I. If I was dead, would you call me trans? Like, it's just so infuriating and it's so disingenuous. And all this does is stoke even more hate under the fire that is already burning very heavily for you, Lily Tino. As a trans woman yourself, you don't want to be misgendered, so as a non-trans person, why would you want to misgender them? It just really scratches my head. I don't have a clue what she's trying to get at, and I don't think she does either, to be honest. Then that can lead to like real life consequences of someone either getting outed or, you know, what have you. But Kurt Cobain's gone. They are no longer with us. It's not hurting anyone to speculate at all. What, so if you speculate that someone in real life is trans and they might get outed for it, is the reason why that you wouldn't... What? So the only reason you're not going to speculate that someone's trans is because they're alive and you don't want to potentially get them exposed. It's just so counterintuitive to the actual trans movement that she thinks and believes that she's in. Because stupid people will think, well, she's fine with assuming genders of other people, so I can do it myself with them. Just feeding a negative narrative. So if you think that it's disrespectful, I'd ask you to look inside and say, why is it disrespectful? Would it be such a bad thing if Kurt were trans? Let's say I'm wrong. We'll say I'm wrong, okay? Let's say that Lily is wrong about Kurt Cobain. Okay, then what? Well, then you've just come across a bit of a knobhead on the internet, and, well, you're wrong anyway, so there we go. And I think I've made it very evident as to why it is just full stop disrespectful. Especially when you, in the real life, do not want your gender to be assumed in public. It's like smacking someone in the face and then being outraged that someone would smack you back. Who's been hurt here? Nobody. Let's say I'm right.
then that offers another interesting layer of someone who was going through something, a struggle. Maybe adds an interesting layer of analysis that we can talk about with Kurt Cobain's work, or at least speculate on. Either way.
But with the horrible people that come into your lives and say the horrible stuff about misgendering you all the time, it's going to come across as dumb, innit? And people are getting hurt because you're getting hurt yourself for feeding into this and refusing to apologise for doing something that is genuinely stupid. I don't think that outwardly saying, because she outwardly says in the video that Kurt was probably trans, is going to affect anyone. It's not going to add an interesting layer. It's just going to come across as speculative. And what's the point in speculating about this stuff when you've got real life problems in the real world with real people that you can talk about on your platform that will be much more beneficial to people who are transitioning than anything that you're doing by posthumously saying that someone's trans. And really, I just think she's so thick.
Anyways, that's my comment on the video. All right, I'm gonna read this menu. Truly, like, I'm quite shocked by the reaction to the video, because even though I stand by the video, it's not like I came up with it. Hi, Steffi. I did not come up with it. It's been a theory that's been kicked around a lot, and I'm a firm believer.
But Lily, the way that you present it is the problem. Just because you didn't create this and it's been said in a couple of forums, it doesn't mean that by you peddling it to a massive audience is not a bad thing. It is still a bad thing. You are being speculative on something that really doesn't need to be speculative about. You're not solving anything, you're not adding layers, you're just being a prick. And no wonder so many people are against you. In the past month as well, she's been getting up to practically the exact same things as before, such as on her main YouTube channel being once again very inappropriate. Meanwhile, she's posting in between this stuff like conversations with children like this.
I just got this new microphone and I'm honestly not entirely sure how it works.
For the uninitiated, I will just say that is a massage gun. Posting this in between stuff with kids is the problem, Lily. Also, her views were massively down and it's been really causing problems with her, and I think she's just tried to promote her OF now in any way that she can. Because of the views going down, she's just focusing on that now. Leading to her, for example, post this: Halloween's ratings from friends after first viewing, which is about her subscribers on her Patreon, and she seems to only have 4 subscribers. Friend 1, 2, 3 and 4. And well, that really does explain it, doesn't it, Lily? That's how far we've come. She's also been posting stuff like this, once again doing the trans toilet public thing. Like, she really is funny. This is so hilarious, and it really does teach things. And I do think at this point she's kind of losing faith in what she does, because she's getting diminishing returns from what she's doing. She used to get a lot of stuff by being horrible, but what people do, apart from the vehement haters of her, is they look at her, they see that she's weird, they see that she's doing horrible stuff, and they move on with their lives, and then that drops the view counter massively. Meaning that on TikTok especially, you've got 2 options. You can either go further with it and be even more outlandish, or you can just let it simmer and disappear, leading to the massive problems that you see on social media with her, and also leading to 4 subs. And then I also thought we would talk about quickly, because I did talk about this in my previous video, which you should definitely go and watch after this one, but how Lily Tino, in what she's doing, does really fetishize the fact that she is transitioning, or that she has transitioned, to promote her OF. As I've said already in this video, she's using these child-friendly stuff while she's promoting her OF on social media, which really does add another layer and make it really, really inappropriate in my opinion. But it's also something that has been mentioned by their haters. For example, them talking here with Lily following multiple girls who aren't girls, essentially men who dress up as females, in which some would say using that as a platform so people will go over and click onto her because she's quote unquote got a similar thing going on. In my opinion, Lily is transgender and she is transitioning at this point. But I do think with what she does, especially, she does fetishize the fact that she is transgender in able to get more subscribers on OnlyFans. For example, on the OF itself, it says you'll see a lot of my boobs, booty and girl dick and lots of chum videos on main feed. And I do think that she uses that she has a penis, even though she is a woman, as a fetish thing. Because on the internet there is a large group of people who do fetishize this, and they see it as a very attracting factor, just the fact that they've got a penis even though they look like a woman. I do think she uses a lot, such as in this video where I have previously covered it, which is just, it really does every single time. I try not to cringe.
Wait. I have a really important announcement. I promise this will take 2 seconds, okay? You ready? They bounce. Am I right?
At this point, she still did have balls in her ball bag, so she's making a point, oh look, it bounces. I do think playing into the fact that you still have male genitalia when you are a female is very disingenuous to the community when you are using it as a ploy to get more money. Almost like you are using it for your advantage as opposed to actually trying to educate and understand as to why people would transition, for example. And on a Spicy Lily Tino page, she plays into this a lot too. My overarching theme in what I think she does is she does this so it can get more attention. And in the end, I think that's what the entirety of Lily Tino's TikTok is. I don't really think she is someone who is interested in educating people on trans issues and nuances. Maybe that is something that she did have an intention for at the start when she first started transitioning, but since then it's really changed, and not for the good. I think Lily Tino, by being here, is only causing problems for the trans community and is only making a more negative social experience on social media and in person as well. I don't think Lily Tino is going to fully stop until she gets wiped off the platform. I think she probably should with everything that's gone on, and it's only going to keep getting worse. If you enjoyed the video, once again, please hit the like button, please subscribe. I would love to see you back. I've been Jake Baz. I hope you enjoyed. I hope you enjoyed, and I'll see you later. Take care.